Okay, we've gone ahead and worked with Lucky. We've shown you how fast the SB2009 machine is using our grout coat. First thing we want to do is take off our mixing nozzle. Then my suggestion is to go ahead and grease up this end just like we did before. Grab your grease gun. B side, polyol side, ISO side. Notice we see the grease come out. Now we've got this sealed. It's completely sealed. Wipe that off. I always find it's a nice procedure to go ahead and put a little grease on the threads before I put the retaining nut and the nightcap back on. So here's that nightcap. Put that back on. Secure the retaining nut. Now this section of the manifold is clean. There's nothing else for us to do at the moment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and save the balance of the TX3 that's sitting inside the tanks, putting it back in the buckets. Okay, we've gone ahead and greased our manifold. We have a lot of material left over because we filled this up quite a bit. So now I'm going to show you how to take the polyol and the ISO and put it back in the buckets using these very simple valves. Remember, we had kept the lids on so we got no contaminants in it. Remember, white is ISO, the black is polyol, same as the buckets. Direct the manifold with the valves over each bucket, turn them on. Come back up to your on-off, turn it on, turn up the speed. Okay, now we've gone ahead and emptied all of our material out of our tanks. I'm going to put this to the side. Go ahead and close this back up. Good idea to never leave your pails open for very long, because if you're in a humid area of the country, moisture can have an effect. So go ahead and store that till the next job. Let's go ahead and look inside here. So now we have some residue left over of the TX3 that I'm going to show you how to clean out with our xylene. Okay, now we've finished emptying our tanks out through those nice valves into our buckets. We've saved all our TX3. Now we're going to just assume we're done for the job, or we're going to move on to another job. So I'm going to show you how to clean these tanks out. Same process that we did with the polyurea. You want to first start with your xylene. Pour yourself a decent amount of xylene inside of each tank. Good cleaning agent. We're going to show you how to take and shut it down completely on this job and heading off to another job. So pour yourself some xylene in. Like I said, xylene's a good cleaning agent without hurting the seals of the pumps. Pour that in, and what I do, pick up our wand here. I'm going to bring our manifold over to the purge bucket, open the valves, then I'm going to turn on the machine. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm flushing out the balance of the TX3 out of the hoses. As I can see the TX3, it's a different color. I'm going to wait till I see nothing but xylene. Keep pumping it. Okay, that looks pretty clean. A little bit of black color from the polyol side, but that's not a big deal. Once again, we're going to come back over the tanks here. We're going to direct the polyol hose onto the polyol side, and the ISO side on the ISO side. I'm going to open up those valves again, and I'm going to turn on the machine, start pumping, and I'm now going to circulate the xylene to the entire system for 10 minutes. It's going to clean out the hoses. More importantly, it's going to go through the pump and completely clean the pumps out. So I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the machine, shut each valve. Now what I'm going to do is come over here to our work area. Now we've got the xylene. It's completely cleaned the pumps, clean the hoses, clean through these valves, but we also need to make sure we clean out through the manifold. So last step I do with the xylene, open up the manifold, or take off the nightcap, turn it on, and start pumping. Make sure the xylene is cleaning that manifold really well. I'll just keep pumping until there's nothing left in the system, in the hoses. Okay, we pumped all the xylene out. Go ahead right now and just put this back down on our work area. Come back up to the tanks here. I want you to notice we have all this TX3 residual product coating the inside of the tanks. I'm going to go ahead and take our rags and I'm going to clean it out, because xylene's a good cleaner. Okay, we've gone ahead and pumped all the material out, all the TX3. We're going to go ahead and clean the tanks out with some rags using the xylene that was left over. I've gone ahead and unscrewed the screens. I think it's a good idea to save these screens for later. I'll clean out each side. If you have any more residue, just grab some more xylene and just wipe it nice and clean. B side, A side. The ISO screen, get that out, get that clean. Like I said, the xylene is a very good cleaning agent, so good idea to clean the tank really nice. That way the ISO, which starts to harden with air, won't start caking up on the inside of the tank. So now if you take a look inside there, those tanks are really nice and clean. This is the final process. Now we've got the pumps clean, we have the hoses clean, the tanks are clean, but we need to store it heading off to the next job. So we don't want air to get inside the system, so our recommendation, very simple, just use regular motor oil, pour that into each tank. I'll go ahead and pour a decent amount in here. Doesn't have to be anything special, just any clean motor oil. We grab whatever's cheapest, some 30 weight motor oil. Okay, now we have motor oil in the tanks. What I'm going to do now is pump that motor oil through the pumps, through the hoses, and out through this manifold. So once again, we'll go ahead and go over to our purge here. We'll turn on our pumps. We'll start to flow. At first, what we might end up seeing is a little bit of xylene left over in the hoses. But pretty soon, we're going to see the oil coming through, which we're starting to see right about now. That looks good. I'm going to turn that off. Now I want you to take a look at the tanks. At the bottom of the tanks I left a little bit of oil. That's perfect because you want to keep some oil at the very bottom of the tank so that the pumps below the tanks don't have air coming in contact with them, because it'll cause those pumps to become hard. Okay, we've gone ahead and cleaned the hoses out. We've pumped the oil through, so we have oil through the system. The last step before we leave the job, we're going to go ahead and grease the manifold one more time. Stick this on the polyol side, start pumping until we see grease coming out. There it is. Go on to the ISO side, pump that until we see grease coming out. That's good. Take this off. Then my suggestion is wipe that oil, take a little bit, that grease, I'm sorry, wipe it on the threads, take that white nightcap, reattach that, and then secure it on with the retaining nut. Okay, now the manifold up here in this section where the mixing nozzle is attached is full of grease. One last thing that I would do is I would open up this valve and put the grease in here. What this does is keeps these valves clean from possibly becoming hard over time, especially the clear ISO side. So that's the poly side. Here's the ISO side. I'm going to do the same thing. What you saw kind of coming out of there was a little bit of xylene because it was nice and thin. I'm just pumping it till I see grease coming out. then I'll turn that valve off. Okay, now the machine is completely ready to store on the travel to the next job. So make sure when you're traveling from one job to the other, putting your lids back on, making sure your valves are shut, putting the bar across, and making sure that the lids are secure so you don't lose them as you drive on the road. Okay, we've got the machine ready to transport to another job. What we want to make sure you understand is this is a deep cell battery with an inverter system. Make sure you turn off your inverter so it does not drain the battery as you're transporting it. The other thing you have to understand is we are now supplying the machines with a nice battery charger, and make sure that when you're charging up the battery, you take off the wing nuts here, take off the cover, exposing the battery. Now it's very important before you hook up your charger and charge up the battery that you disconnect the inverter, because as you're charging up the battery overnight, if you have the inverter connected, there's a chance you might short it out. So make sure that you disconnect your inverter before you charge it up. Very simple, just get these connections off. Obviously black to black, red to red. Then over here you've got your fast charger. You're going to take this and you're going to plug it in the wall. It's going to automatically charge it up completely. It will not overcharge it. Probably, if the battery is completely dead, might take about 6 hours to completely charge it. And obviously the next day you come in, you disconnect this, you reconnect your inverter, and make sure you put your protective cover on top. Now you're ready to go for 8 hours more of continuous use of the machine.